Candy, love and life coaching delivered straight up like your best friend would if she were a licensed and certified mental wellness professional. If you don't know me yet, I'm Candace Harper, relationship coach and hypnotherapist, and I'm here to support you with feeling epic, enough, peaceful, illuminated, and courageous in every area of your life, but particularly your love life, whether you're single or not. I'm also here to teach all of us how to vibe high and manifest the sweetest possible love in this lifetime. I'm here to teach you how to ask for candy and to get it. If you've got something to say about what you hear, email me your comments and questions, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok @CandyLoveCoach. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. Leave a review so I can shout you out. And share with the friends and family that you know will benefit from this spoonful of sugar. Now let's get started. And I'm so excited today because you know I brought my girl Jada back. Hello. My sweet. I brought my girl Jada back by popular demand. And Jada Purvis is a certified matchmaker and relationship expert. She has over a decade of experience in creating meaningful connections, and she's been featured in Cosmopolitan, Upjourney, Yahoo Sports, ABC News, Good Day DC, and many, many more. Welcome back, my sweet love.
Thank you. I'm so excited. So excited.
Right? We got big news popping.
We have very big news.
Right?
I think the biggest news.
The biggest news ever.
The biggest news ever.
So I have Miss Jada here with me because what we are endeavoring upon is a bit of a project together. And you guys who've been listening to Ask for Candy for a while, you know that, this has been my beloved podcast that I've had many a guest, many a co-host on, just experimenting throughout the years just to see what would work, what wouldn't work. Well, Jada and I, we have regular conversations.
Yeah, very regular conversations.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we've done this show a couple times. Miss Jada has been kind enough to come and be a guest on the show. And when we've done the show, your responses have always been amazing. Everybody loves it, shares it, and we're feeling like it's time for us to make a committed move.
It is.
Do you want to tell them what we're about to do, Miss Jada?
Honey, this move is so major.
Right? It's like a marriage.
It's a marriage. It's a new partnership.
Yeah, definitely.
So we will be creating an incredible, incredible podcast.
Yes, honey.
With the both of us.
Yes.
Sharing our experiences in matchmaking.
Yes.
Love. Personal experiences.
Absolutely, always.
It's going to be really exciting.
We're good at telling our business.
Oh, I am very good at telling my business.
Right?
Maybe too good.
Right? So what we're going to be doing, like Miss Jada said, is that we're branching out, building a whole new project of a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. From scratch, from fresh. So, we're going to need you guys who listen to Ask for Candy to also subscribe to our new podcast. Should we tell them the title, Miss Jada?
Let's do it.
So the title of our new podcast was, we could say it together. 1, 2, 3. We're matchmakers, not magicians.
Yes.
Right? And so, what we were talking about is how we're often having conversations about the work that we do as matchmakers. We're often having conversations about our own personal love lives and and also because we are who we service. Mm-hmm. So both this podcast and the new podcast is for perfectionistic, high-achieving women over 35 who are continuing to do their life's work and still feeling the sting of an unfulfilled love life.
Yeah.
That's who we are.
That's who we are.
And that's who we service.
That's who we service.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we wanted was to create a conversation where, because none of us likes the wrong-making conversation. We like to know that we are in a community, right? So Miss Jada and I were talking about having a conversation where we talk about the stories, talk about, what the clients go through, and then also how we are empathetic to it.
Yeah.
Because we're there too.
We're going through it with them.
Exactly.
And we're coaching them through it.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Very exciting.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the understanding of the vulnerability that it takes and all of that. We're going to be talking about our client stories.
Yes, giving them a behind the scenes look
right
in the world of matchmaking. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have a lot more matchmaking under your belt than I do, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna want to be picking your brain too about like your early stories, like when you
Yeah.
first were starting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I have my whole, like when I was first starting, I at least was already well into my relationship coaching and had been dealing with couples and dealing with single women and stuff like that. And as I started as a relationship coach, I was in a relationship when I started.
Oh yeah.
So there was that feeling some sense of already confident about it, but still, when I started dealing with matchmaking clients, it still threw me because I was like, I wasn't prepared for the emotional mentality that comes from paying someone to help you date.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was like, that's on a whole nother level.
When I first started, I was going through a divorce.
Oh, wow.
So it was a challenge to switch my mind a little bit to think about someone that's searching for a relationship when I am ending a relationship.
Yes.
So it was a little challenging.
But what, like that, I would imagine. Like, so what kind of things did it make it challenging in the sense that you were feeling, because when you're in a breakup or a divorce, it's almost like you have this sort of, not necessarily a negative view of love, but you're almost wanting to push it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, did it, tell me how it...
It was very challenging. I did a lot of reading, a lot of reflecting, because I was not in the best headspace to advise somebody on love, because they're very green and they're so excited and they want their person, and I'm like,
you're like, you do not want a person.
Not want to go through.
Right.
So it was hard to switch it off, but I will say throughout the years it was almost very healing and therapeutic to me, because it renewed almost my love of love, which I've always had. So, it was very interesting. It was a challenge, but then it turned into be something that's incredibly beautiful, because I'm so obsessed with love now that I think it helped me in
like
a way,
restored
if
hope.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I know for me, like when I very first started, which wasn't that long ago, I haven't been a matchmaker for very long. I think I'm going on maybe 3 years. But when I very first started, I guess, okay, so one of my very first clients with the company that I worked for, she had like 5 kids. But she was high powered. Like she was a lawyer. It wasn't like she was just having kids and not going to school and getting her life together. And I think the year or so before, her fiance had committed suicide.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she paid a nice chunk, so that she could get a matchmaker and have somebody come in. And I guess because she was feeling like there was a lot of challenge around having 5 children and trying to find somebody. Which, makes sense. There's a lot of good guys out there who will take on, a single mother with a number of children, right? But the more children you have, I feel like that number dwindles.
Yeah. Funny you say that, because we just talked about this yesterday.
Yes.
A particular interview that happened, and this gentleman had
7.
7, yeah. He had 7 kids, and my response to you was,
like, what is the story?
What is the background? Because a lot of people view that as too much. Yeah. But everybody deserves love, regardless how many kids, whatever the situation is.
Right.
But it's interesting you say that, because there's such a stigma around that. 1, 2, 3 kids is feasible, but when you get 4, 5, 6, and 7,
that's a lot to take on.
That is a lot to take on.
When they're all children. I mean, at least with him, they weren't all children, but when they are, like this particular client, I think her oldest one was like 11 or 12. Yeah. And, she came into it, and as a relationship coach at the time, just really instantly being able to recognize that she had not healed from the pain of having lost her fiance. And everything that she was going through emotionally and mentally, how she was blaming herself, and all of that stuff had no healing around it whatsoever. And so here she was, having invested a nice chunk of change and wanting to then move on and have somebody come in and be in relationship with her. Yeah. And on top of that, she had all the usual requirements that we talk about.
The list.
The list. Had to be good looking, had to make a certain amount of money, had to be tall, all of that stuff. Couldn't be bald. Right? And so for me, starting out as a matchmaker, that was like a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Because I was like, first of all, I couldn't believe that they had taken her money. And second of all, it hadn't filtered her out. And second of all, I was like, how do I, try to wear two hats? Where it's like, because in that first job, it wasn't like, you're not necessarily, people weren't talking about matchmaking and coaching together as much.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very recent thing.
It is very recent.
Where it's like, we're there to actually support you with transformation, right? Or that we offer that. But, so it's like you're trying to be the matchmaker and be like, yes, I can look for this for you. And yes, I can get this for you. And it's like, but in my mind, I'm like, no, you have so much stuff to overcome.
Yeah. But I will say that you, as you grow and develop as a matchmaker, you become more comfortable having those conversations. Because when I first started, I was, first of all, as I mentioned, going through a divorce, but I was uncomfortable because I thought of it as this person going to receive what I'm saying and use it to help them? Yeah. Or are they going to be defensive? Or are they going to say, I gave you this money. Yeah. Do what I asked you to do. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So in the beginning, it was a little challenging there, but now I'm so comfortable having those conversations, and I think people trust us more.
Yes.
When you can have those transparent, brutal conversations to say, this is what you need to work on. These are what I'm here to help you with. They trust us more and they value that more. So I think that's what makes matchmaking so incredible, because people kind of have that cheerleader. Which I wish I would have had.
Right? Like somebody who can kind of hold your hand through it. Yeah. I mean, I will have to say that, it is that balance between, like you said, having that confidence to have certain hard conversations with them, but then also, trying to relay that there's not some endless supply of what they want somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And when you're dealing with someone, I think and that's one thing I have learned in the time that I've been doing it, is like you're dealing with someone who they've paid for a service, they're paying for something, and all of their emotional stuff is there as well. That fine line that you walk between trying to get them to understand that it's not an instant, you know what I mean? Like an instant return. I think that was in the beginning for me, the part of it that I was like, okay, if I can sort of like crack this code and like you're talking about, get to a point where I'm comfortable with just telling them the hard truths, then maybe we'll get through it.
You'll get through it, right? Be successful.
Yeah.
But too, I think people appreciate it more, even if they don't get into the relationship or get engaged or married or whatever the case may be. I think they appreciate the input that we give them, the insight that we give them, the conversations, the tools that we give them. Because when they're done with our process, I feel like they're better people. They're better to maneuver and manage a relationship out in the world.
Absolutely.
Even if with us, they didn't meet their person, they still gained so much more.
Yeah. And it's the seeing the value in that.
Seeing the value. Yeah.
Let me ask you this though. Okay. When it comes to because one thing I feel like I've never actually hired a matchmaker, right? So I start to think, because as a coach, I definitely have hired coaches, right? And, as a hypnotherapist, I definitely have been hypnotized many times, right?
Once, and I was very nervous.
So I feel like a lot of the empathy piece for me comes from, putting myself in the shoes of someone who felt that they got to a point where they wanted to make an investment, right? Where they're like, it's the end. Like, I have to make an investment. Like, how do you sort of make that switch where you're like, I feel the empathy. Like, I'm feeling you. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because there's a desperate, not that matchmaking clients are desperate, but there is a desperation when we decide to spend a lot of money to make something happen. There's just a level of okay, I can't do this on my own. And nothing wrong with that, because we all get to that point. Every human being does. So how do you?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think for some people, part of it is, I think some people are just too busy and they're very successful and they just don't want to take the time to go through dating apps and all of that. But I think some people, they're just fed up. They're just like, I need somebody. And maybe they realize whatever I'm doing isn't working. So I need somebody to assist in that process.
Help me out with it.
But then some people, it's just because I have the money and this isn't working, I don't have the time. let me just pay somebody.
Let's see what'll happen.
Let's see what happens. Would you hire a matchmaker ever?
That's a great question. I think probably more so now than, I mean, you know, like I was saying, I think the last time we were chatting, part of me is just like, I know so many matchmakers that I feel like it's almost like when you know a bunch of mechanics, would you necessarily go and find another one to pay? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
But in a way, to actually have somebody focused on the job, like, you know I can rely on you that if you met somebody, you'd be like, oh yeah, he's perfect for Candace. I'll fix it. I know you would. But, you know, I mean, it's a good question. Probably more so now than I probably would have when I first started matchmaking. I think when I first started, I had a little bit of judgment around it. Not judging people for doing it necessarily, but judging sort of how they come into it, the expectations they come in with. Yeah, like I had to sort of heal that within myself, like a sense of judgment around it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I always think of that woman, because the one with 5 kids, because I think with her, I was like, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Because even if you hadn't had the trauma of having your fiance kill himself, here you are coming with 5 kids,
saying, "Help me get me a man."
Yeah, and help me find this perfect man. And I mean that's the line I was walking, because there was that part of me that was like, not that any of us is undeserving of love. But I had a real issue with her deserve level having, and that's all my own stuff. Her deserve level having 5 kids, thinking you're going to get the perfect man, and here I am with no kids. And the man I'm with, right? And the man I was with at the time was not. I mean, he had a lot of the external stuff, because that's what I was looking for when I found him. But you know, he wasn't unconditional love. He wasn't safety, stability, caring. He wasn't like a real, true connection. He was somebody that I got through wanting that ideal, perfect external. And so I think, you know, I had to figure out how to balance my regret around that and also judging her for thinking, you know, that you, first of all, that you deserve somebody who's coming rich, good looking, and all this stuff when you have all this stuff that you come with.
How did you get through that? When did the light switch?
Right, that's a good question. I don't know that it was like as much of a light switch as it was a slow evolution. Because the more people that I worked with, and the more that I worked with us, and by us I mean, you know, like I described, single women over 35 who are perfectionistic and high powered and you know, running their household and stuff. The more that I worked with us, the more that I you know, just from coaching, I had to dig into your empathy thing, that muscle. But I realized I had to start applying it to matchmaking.
To help people.
To really actually help anybody. And I had to sort of like get into those feelings and emotions. I mean, even a client that I was just recently talking to, you know, she's older and she's very, and I say this with judgment, knowing that I could say the same thing about myself. Like, I've been there, done it. I know it all already.
There's nothing you can say to her that she hasn't already experienced.
Exactly. I already figured it out. I know all the answers, and I read people. I know how everybody is. You know, so I think what I had to do, and the reason that I'm able to have conversations with her that are productive conversations, is because I had to recognize that in myself, take out the judgment that I was having for myself for having chosen the wrong person, and just let people be where they are as far as the matchmaking thing is concerned, just as well as I would with a coaching client.
That's good.
Right? Like,
That's good.
Because as soon as I started letting myself be where I was at, and like you said, you said you were going through a divorce in the beginning, so I was in that relationship and you know, evolving. Actually, no, wait, now that I think about it, I was ending that relationship as well.
Yeah, see? And you have a completely different mindset. Because although you love and you want it again, you want to find it again, it's challenging because your mind is still on what you just experienced and went through. So to try and transition that mindset into helping somebody find what you want or may have feel that you lost, that was very challenging.
Right? And I think maybe that's also where, just as we're talking about, that's also where a lot of my judgment was coming from too.
I could see
like that relationship was like, at its, when it's at that dying, where it's like,
when you're like, okay,
it was like,
no, but
right?
you still
in hospice.
are holding on a little bit, like maybe it'll turn.
Yeah. But maybe I think there was a little bit of that, maybe it'll turn, but more so there was, fuck this love thing.
Yeah, like I'm over it.
Right?
Yeah. Because I even went through that. I went through a space while I'm helping people find love. Yeah. And as matchmakers, people always ask, are you single?
Yeah.
Are you married? Have you been divorced? Well, why are you not married? Why? And then, you're also going through your own stuff, which is a challenge, because then it brings up the reason that you're not with somebody, but you still have to help that person find somebody.
And you want them to trust you as someone who knows what you're talking about. And that it's funny because just last week the show was "Why Are You Single?" Right? And that question, because I had talked to a couple people and somebody sent me a question about that. Why do guys ask that on dates? Like, why are you single? Why do they say that? So last week's show, I talked about how, we take it as an insult a lot of times, or we have a negative reaction to it because we might still be making single wrong, or there might be something to be healed around single.
That's really
right?
Good.
As if single is a pejorative.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, because there was a time too where if people would ask me about my status, there's two ways I think that clients will ask you about your status. Either you're talking to somebody who wants to date you, like a man who wants to date you, right?
Yes.
Or it's a woman who wants to make sure she should listen to you.
Yeah, both.
Right? As the matchmaker. And I think, I always explain it this way. Single is a phase of life, just like being in a relationship is a phase of life. Right? And so whether or not and I also had a friend who still to this day is very unsupportive around what I do, because she's like, how are you helping people and you're not even in a relationship? And it's like, I've been in relationships.
Life experience too. You have so much experience that you can share with people.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, besides the training and the learning, which is also very important, but so those of us who are single, who help people to find love, it's like, we have, like you said, the life experience, and also we're in a phase just like anybody else would go through a phase, right?
Well, right. I mean, we're both still figuring out relationships.
Yeah.
So I think as we help people, it's easy for us to do so because we also kind of add our own life experiences to them. I tell people stories all the time, and I think it makes them more relatable to me.
Yeah.
Especially when I talk about my divorce. I think people are like, oh, okay, Jada, you've been there.
Yeah.
You know how I feel.
You know what it's like. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Right?
It's matchmaking
I mean, it's like doctors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Doctors have to go to doctors. Right?
That's very true.
And doctors don't always have optimal health. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Right? They're going through different phases with their health and their body. And then they're also doctoring people.
Right.
They
still have to help people. They still have to
get
help
up and
go to work every day.
Exactly. Yeah. And that whole idea that single is not a pejorative. It's not an insult. It's actually a good place to be. And it's the best place to be if you want to develop a healthy relationship, to start from single.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Yeah.
Definitely.
I think so
Single's
too.
not a bad thing. I tell people all the time. It's not clients ask me all the time, Jada, why are you single? It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That I'm single.
Right.
I think people think that it is, but it's really not. I'm in a very good space.
And there's that motivation too, I think, as far as becoming a client. A lot of times clients are motivated by making single wrong. So I don't want to be single anymore. My whole family's talking about me being single. I have a client now, she's like, my family, they get on my case because I'm single. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like with that, even in our society and culture, that wrong making around it, that has people gravitate, I think, towards matchmaking as well.
Yeah, but I wonder, where did that come from?
What, that societal thing that it's
How
bad?
How many events or things have you been to and people are like, gosh, why are you single?
Yeah.
It's like a common question.
Yeah.
I don't even know where that originated from.
Well, I mean, there's the whole, the fact that we do thrive in communities, and there's this idea in our society which has changed vastly, right? Yeah. That somehow, being in a relationship, a committed legal relationship, that somehow enhances your life, which I think it has the possibility to. But I think, we know just from what our culture is like now, it ain't a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee. It's definitely not a guarantee.
Right? Mm-mm. Right? Mm-mm. So I think the reason that people always ask is because it's like, there is something in their mind that thinks that there's something wrong if you're doing it on your own, or even a fear for you that you're, ostracized from the group if you're not, if there's not someone you're anchored to.
But, I have found, at least I would say probably these past couple years, I'm running into more clients that definitely want to be in a committed relationship but don't necessarily want to be married.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting because many, many, many years ago, that was the thing. Everybody wanted that life. And now people say, you know what, Jada, I just want to find the one. I don't have to be married. But as long as I'm committed to that person and we have a strong partnership, I don't need the marriage.
Do you think that has to do with our age as well? Because I wonder because I think about that too. Like, would I, let's say I met someone that I really wanted to be with, would I want to marry them? And then I think, at this age, do I want to go through like the legal rigmarole as far as money and assets are concerned? Not that I have so many assets, but you know what I mean? Like, like, do you think it has to do with age, or do you think it's more like, what do you think it's about?
That's a great question, because I myself have struggled with that question. I don't
Like, would you want to? Like, do you feel like...
That's, right? I mean, I think about it all the time. It's a tough question, because for the right person, well, first of all, yes, I would love to be in like the perfect, not perfect, but perfect to me.
Yeah.
Committed relationship, but I don't know that it has to be marriage.
Yeah.
And I think I would be okay with that.
Really?
But for me, I think it's more because of I've been married before and what that experience was like, which is not to say that my next one would be that way, but I just realized I don't have to have that piece of paper.
No.
I don't have to have it.
I think that too. Like, there was a time, I have to say, and I've said this on the show before, that I was raised to be a wife. Like,
oh, I say it all the time.
Right?
Anybody out there? I am a damn good wife. Just so you all know. But
right?
I say that all the time.
Yeah, but I like me and my sisters trained. Like, with the cooking thing, with the what wives are supposed to do, traditionally. I think with my dad very much took care of us in a way so that we would understand that, your man is supposed to earn enough money to take care of you. Like, they were very old school in that way, how we were brought up. But that desire to want to get married, I think I had it strongly when I was young, because that's what I was told I was supposed to want.
That's what you were conditioned to think you needed to have.
Yeah, yeah. And I was supposed to desire, because I was never, and as much as I like to draw pictures of women in big dresses and stuff like that, I wasn't the little girl who was like, marriage. Yeah. I was into love. Don't get me wrong. I loved a good romance novel. Right?
I think every little girl did.
Right? Yeah. But junior high school, I was obsessed with love and passion and sex and things like that. But I wasn't like, I can't wait to be a bride. Dun, 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 like putting the thing on my head, all that stuff. I just remember that's what we were trained to do, like around money. My dad didn't really go out of his way to teach us about money, because we would have a man one day that would handle that.
A man would take care of you.
Right? My mom made sure we knew how to cook, because, so a man will be able to take care of a man. And so when I got older, like early 20s, I would say, I was in a 13-year relationship from age, 20 to 33, or like 19 to 32, something like that. And I really felt like we need to get married. And when I look back, as much as I loved him, that was more about what I traditionally thought I was supposed to do. Yeah. And less about, I just want to be with you, and what I really wanted. Yeah. Yeah. And we acted like a married couple. I mean, we were together for over a decade. Like, you know how when you're with someone and people don't identify you without that person? Yeah. And if you're not with that, they're like, well, where's so-and-so? Yeah. And that's what people were like with both of us. But, fortunately, the relationship broke down, not because he wasn't a great guy. He was a really great guy. But I look back on my experience after that relationship ended, and I'm, first of all, glad I didn't have to go through a major legal divorce.
Yeah, because it is no joke.
It's no joke. I believe it. I believe it. And then second of all, I'm like, I realized that my not being eager to like marry up with somebody has been natural all along. Like, I really think that I would need somebody to I don't know, like to do all that legal stuff at this age.
Yeah.
I don't know who they would have to be.
Well, that's a good question because
right?
Is it age?
Well, I don't know. That's what I feel like for me. I feel like I've gotten to an age or a point in my life where I would love a committed partnership that would be great and fun, that we love and care about each other.
Yeah.
I like the concept. I don't know if you listen to Abraham Hicks, but she always says that the way that we all should be approaching love is, I like you pretty good, let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. Yeah, because that is true. I think in matchmaking, and you've probably experienced it, they think so far ahead.
Yeah.
Right? We match them. They have that first date. Then they may have that second date. Then they say, well, I don't know if I can move there. I don't know if I can live in his house.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm okay with this. I don't know about that. Well, Jada, where would my kids go to school? Would they have to relocate? And it's like...
You're like 50 steps ahead.
Yeah, you are on date number 2, sweetie.
Right?
Let's give it a moment.
Yeah.
And let's see. So it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. It's like all that sort of like future planning that we often do that makes it all seem so daunting and scary.
But I do that too sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. But I catch myself. I check myself just because of what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But I have been out and I'm like, oh gosh, what would this look like? What would our home look like?
Right.
Oh, what would we do on the weekends together? And it's like, Jada.
Would he like my furniture taste?
Right.
And you bring up a good point too, I think, for people who have kids on top of that. They do start thinking about like, I can't relocate because my kids are in school,
right.
or,
because kids, then it becomes a package.
Yeah.
Then you also think, how will they be with my kids?
Yeah.
Will they love my kids the way I love my kids? So then there's all those other conversations, which, I mean, I've had to coach people through all the time. I just had a conversation with a client, and she's dating somebody in another state.
Yeah.
They're probably about 3 months in, and she's already like, I mean, what is this going to look like? I can't relocate my kids, and he doesn't have kids, and is he going to love my kids, and would he move here? And I'm like, let's just see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes.
You are 90 days in.
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment and see what happens. And as you progress, then you can kind of have those conversations.
Yeah.
And as it takes time to get to know somebody, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially, I believe, when you're living in 2 different states.
Yeah.
Because you know the person that you see that weekend you visit them.
Yeah.
But you don't know the person
right.
Monday through Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
They're daily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I think like how to overcome that challenge of, because we both said we both do it, that challenge of doing too much future planning, and also knowing how important it is to be able to not future plan when you're a matchmaking client. Like, because that's, like you were saying, all of that is usually what makes it a difficult process, right? So if I'm in month 3, or I mean, a lot of them are before the first date, because we ask them what it is they want, what it is they're looking for, and then they've got that list that's all about future planning.
Yeah.
Like, I have a client who's like, he's got to want to buy a house together in LA, even though we're from, wherever we're from. And it's like, those are the kinds of things that evolve in a relationship. Like, that might be something that you want for the future, but if you say, I'm only going to date someone who wants to do that as well,
standing in your own way.
It's standing in your own way, right? So it's like that overcoming of that challenge of people saying, okay, here's my check. Here's all the things that I want to make sure that I can do with this person.
Yeah.
And I have another client who's like, her guy I matched her with is older, and they've been dating. But her whole concern right now is, well, I still like to paddleboard and mountain climb, and he's not going to be able to do all of that stuff. He's not active enough. And it's like, I mean, that's part of sort of evolving into a relationship, is seeing how the two of you can fulfill.
Yeah.
Right? So if we future plan and say, I already want it to be this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
That's not, you're not relating with anybody else or what someone else's needs are or what they might want.
Right.
So I guess my original question is, how do we, in the very beginning, sort of steer them in a direction where it's like away from thinking that they have to fit somebody into what they've already planned. Right? Because we do that. We just said we do that too. And it's something that, you get in your awareness about, and then you have to but how do you feel like we have to do it with clients?
That's a really good question, because
right? I think about it all the time. I'm like, how do I steer people away from this, I got to have this future plan laid out. And so that's going to be all the requirements that I put on this person.
Well, I think one of the things is just having the conversation, which I've had to have many, many times. And I tell people from the very beginning, you are standing in your own way. You came to me for a reason. You have to let me help you. So this whole, I've got this list, he has to have a house here, we've got to do this, I want to be married by this year. We have to throw that out the window. Right. Of course, you want to have the things that are important to you, the things that you need. Yeah. But all of that other stuff can be figured out. We have to get to that point first. We have to get you on that first date. We have to get you on a second date. We have to determine if there's chemistry and connection. So it's just having several conversations. Because it always takes more than one. But then they get it. They finally get it. And I think
the ones that end up successful, right?
And some of them, unfortunately, the ones that don't, they end up leaving the process. Yeah. The way they came in, which is single. I love that you mentioned that too, because then there's that certain type that just, they're in not just denial of what's possible, but denial of self. And so they come in willing to pay, but then already a no. Yep. Right? Yeah. And then they're a no throughout the process. Yeah. They're the ones who want to decline a lot, turn down possible matches, and then leave it, and they're still a no. And they're still a no. Yeah. Because they came into it with that no mentality. Yeah. They may have had the money to write the check to pay for it, but they're not mindset where they need to be. It's a whole nother thing. You can have the check, but if you're not willing to shift your mindset and be open to the process, it is never going to work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like buying a gym membership and never going to the gym. Yeah, what's the point? Right? So you can say, I've got this membership. Yeah, I'm going to go to the gym one day.
Yeah. No, totally. Totally. It's never going to work. It. I love this conversation. And I think that points to sort of, as we're doing this show, we're going to have probably different themes each time. Yeah. Like talking about different, like we said, different client stories, but different themes around, sometimes it's about the self-sabotage and the standing in your own way. And sometimes it's about, actually doing that segue from we've just met to actually we're now in a relationship, and, what that can look like.
Vulnerability too.
The vulnerability piece. Huge. Yeah, like how do you even be vulnerable when you haven't been all along?
Yeah, that's big. Right? That's going to be a good one.
That'll be a good one. And we're going to be talking about how we support people with that, and how we support ourselves with that as well as we're moving along. And I think, what it comes down to for me, and because it's Ask for Candy, I always have to go back to the story of enoughness. Yeah. Like matchmaking it's such a great avenue for being able to help heal not only our own stories of enoughness, but those of our clients. Absolutely. Right? Yeah. And the idea with this podcast, our new project, is our new baby, right? We're co-parenting, Mama. Oh, yes, we are. Right? The idea is that, ultimately we want those of us over 35, single, perfectionistic women, high-powered, high-achieving, to really get connected to our own sense of enoughness and self-acceptance, so that we can be doing these processes in a way that are successful. Yeah. Right?
I do believe, too, this is good for men to listen to also, because I think it would give them a better understanding of women, how we think, what we go through, our thought process, because we both know we think very differently, men and women do. So any fellas out there, feel free to listen.
Right, all are welcome.
Drop some gems.
Right, all are welcome, and also women who aren't 35 yet. It's definitely be worth your while. But we gonna be talking to the sisters. Yeah, yes. Yes, we are. And because too, in not just ancient cultures, but in a lot of Eastern cultures, the women are the clerics, the women are the wise ones, the women are the source. We're the source of life, and as we get to be older women, we are the source of just so much wisdom and so much to offer when we are in a good, loving space, right? So I think we're sort of like the apex, the pinnacle of all of that, and that's going to be our focus. It's like,
I'm very excited.
How do we farm that for ourselves and everyone else as well?
Right.
Right? Bring some good things to life. Anything else, Miss Jada, you want? Oh, we didn't talk about the segment that we're going to have in the show, the aftermatch.
Yes, we are going to have the aftermatch segment in the show, which we really, really will be pulling back the curtain a little bit and talking about everything having to do with some funny, some not so funny, just real life experiences. So that solutions, yeah, and it gives I think more of a visual of what our life is like as matchmakers. Some people think, oh, it's so exciting what you do. Oh, I bet you hear about love all day. And the aftermatch will discuss what it's really like.
Right? After the match, honey.
After the match. What does that look like?
Right. But the kinds of things that we come up with and how we get creative around it as well. Right? Yeah.
Because we have to, as a matchmaker, you have to get creative.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
Our time goes by fast, honey.
It does.
Yeah. I want to, just make sure that everybody knows to come over to the new show. We did sort of put a tentative date for when we're premiering. I don't remember what date we said.
That's why I'm looking at you. Like, which date did we say?
But that's okay, because this is just about giving people a little taste of it, a little bit of an intro, and then we'll when we get closer to like what we want the date to be, we'll promo it out. I'll put it out.
We'll promote it.
Yeah.
This is so exciting. I'm so glad I've been received well. Remember, I was so nervous the first time I came.
I know. And you've done great.
Thank you.
You fit right into it. I told you. Not any of my past co-hosts or guests, don't be offended. But remember I told you, it's like that's one of the things about doing, with doing Ask for Candy, I've always sort of been on a quest for what direction I want Ask for Candy to go in. And so within that, it's had every incarnation. So all kinds of co-host guests, groups, happy hours. It started out as a partnership. I don't know if you know the reason that it's called Ask for Candy.
No, you never told me.
So my first co-host, his name was Askia. And so, right? And so what we were talking about was relationship stuff, like back and forth. At the time, he was kind of trying to date me too. So we were kind of like, right, which was interesting. Yeah. But, we were kind of playing with that a little bit. It ended up being a commitment that he could not keep as far as the podcast was concerned. Also, he was shirking a commitment that he was supposed to be keeping in a wife that was not completely the ex.
That's a whole
nother story, right? So I had to put the kibosh on that part of things. And so, I ended up just taking the podcast on my own. And so that's how it became Ask for Candy. And then Ask for Candy became, asking people questions or having questions asked of me or whatever guests I would have. But when I tell you that in the 4 years, I probably have had, I would say, a minimum of 100 people.
Wow.
Like when you think about the time that I was having co-hosts, like I would have a guest co-host every week. And then with the happy hours and with having, other people come on just as guest experts, at least over 100 people. Wow. And when I say, and I set all this up to say, when I say that you are my hands down favorite, not because everybody else isn't wonderful. You were wonderful people, but because I feel like this was what the vibe that I wanted to create. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Just like a flow of conversation to talk about a bunch of different things.
Exactly. Yeah. Enough of a like-mindedness, enough of a, because we don't have to agree on everything, but enough of that. And already sort of just a foundation of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just being able to just say what's on our mind,
what's on your mind.
Authenticity, and have fun with it.
Yeah, and we do.
Right? And we do.
Actually, in our day-to-day life when we communicate, so.
Yeah. And to be able to laugh about stuff. You'd be surprised how many people just don't want to laugh about stuff. And it's like, it's life, honey. You gotta laugh.
Don't take it so seriously all the time. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, there's been many incarnations, many different people, and I feel like I say all of that for the Ask for Candy audience also, so that you know that I feel like this is like hands down my favorite sort of partnership
around
it,
good.
Not to put any pressure on it.
Now I'm about to start sweating.
Right? You're like, oh snap. Right? But yeah, we do have big plans. Yeah. We're excited. Anything else you want to say to the people to have them come over?
No, I think it's definitely going to be worth it. You may have some surprises in the mix.
Right? Surprises around the bend.
It's going to be really good. And for all the people that have questions about matchmaking, do they want to hire a matchmaker?
Yes.
What does that world look like? I think it's going to be the perfect platform for them to get a glimpse of what that's like and make a decision. Yeah,
absolutely. If you've ever wondered. And I also find too that a lot of people when they start or when they come to us, they really have no idea. Or even when we're interviewing match candidates and stuff. Yeah, like no idea what to expect. And a lot of people, like people that I've met, in my current dating journey, if I say that I matchmake it, they're like, that's a job? They're like, what?
They don't believe it, right? It's like a foreign thing to them.
Yeah. So we just kind of want to lay it out for anybody who's out there considering it, thinking about it, and, just in a place and wants to know some ins and outs, even just for...
Questions. They'll be able to ask questions.
Yes. Yeah, they can ask questions. They'll be able to email us.
Okay, yeah. So then we can answer questions on love, relationships, matchmaking.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Because I'm sure people think about that every day.
Yeah.
Should I do this or should I not? What's in it for me?
Right. Yeah. And we're also looking to remove the stigma, just like with mental health and emotional health, just like with asking for help in general.
Absolutely.
So that people out there don't feel like there's something wrong with you because you ask for the help. And you're talking to a convert, because like I said in the beginning, even as a matchmaker myself, I had a level of judgment about it.
Yeah.
Like people who were hiring me.
Yeah. But I think that's what makes you so good. It makes you more of an expert because you understand it from a different perspective, from a different level.
Yeah. And healed that, like let go of that judgment. That's what helped. And then started to feel like, okay, you know what? These people are me.
They're you.
Right?
They're
and
us.
I want them to have what I want to have. I want them to have what they want to have.
Well, and you get so invested too, that it becomes like, I've got to find this person.
Yeah.
Their person.
Oh, we should do a whole show about the getting invested.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right?
Yep.
Because I do find myself like actually having moments of like, how you can feel physical reactions in your body of disappointment.
Disappointment when it doesn't work.
When it doesn't work.
Me too. Me too.
Not just that they don't want the match, but that they've gone on the match where you really felt like, oh, this is going to be it. And then, for whatever reason, it crashed and burned.
Yeah. And then you feel like, oh.
Right? Especially if they're really disappointed.
Especially when they're disappointed, but if it's them that likes the person so much and
the
person doesn't like and then you have to have that conversation as far as what could have been done a little bit different. I get very disappointed. It's like heartbreaking sometimes, especially when you feel that connection with a client. It just breaks my heart.
Right? Like you so want it to have worked out for them. But then also too, when they're, like we were talking about before, the kind of client that stands in their own way and they get through the whole process and they still feel like a sense of like, upsetness about it, that feels so horrible too, because it's like, if you just would have like listened, gone with the flow, gotten the help that you might have needed outside, maybe a therapist or something, just like really committed to it in an emotional way. And I'm not saying that like it's an easy thing to do, but that feeling when someone doesn't, and then they don't even get to experience any transformation behind it or anything.
They came in exactly as
right, or
they're
angry.
The same way,
There was a woman, I got to tell this story. So there was a woman at the last place I worked who she signed on, just very sophisticated woman, very smart. She was a lawyer, made a lot of money and was an empty nester. And so, signed on like I really need to have a companion, but started from jump. Like, I've dated the best men in the world. They've all been fantastic. They're all this, they're all that. And they just loved me. I just didn't love them. And so now I want to find one that I love. Like, just very, and what I found was that a lot of that was just posturing so that there was a part of her that felt like she was going to look desperate because she was an older woman.
Yeah.
Right? So she was very much posturing. Yeah. It's like, so you had all these amazing men, and she kept talking about, I can attract amazing men. I'm so good at attracting men. And I'm like, that's great. Yeah. But then it's like, so why do you need the service, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into the heart of that. And so, through the journey that she and I had, which, it didn't last very long, one thing I found was that what was really going on is that there were guys that she had been in relationship with that they broke down possibly because she had an alcohol problem. Also, her children were no longer speaking to her. So she wasn't just an empty nester, she was on her own. Right? And so what really was going on is that she had it in her mind that if she bought this package, somebody would come in and fill that hole.
They'd fill the void.
Yeah. And so she had an expectation of it that just set her up to fail. Like, here I am, unable to have relationships with anyone. My children won't even speak to me. And I have, ousted out other people in my life who obviously she did think highly of them. I haven't been able to sustain relationship with anybody, but if I pay this money, you're going to give me somebody who's going to make it happen. Right? And the reason I bring that up is because we were talking, I forget what word we used that inspired that, but it was the setup of expectation, which we're going to have to do a whole show on that.
We should do a whole show on that.
And once she realized that it wasn't going to be what she expected, she really had a very nasty, visceral, negative, angry reaction. Oh, because we were talking about the disappointments.
Yeah.
And so for me, I felt like, at first I was kind of blaming myself. Did I do something wrong with it? But it was like her expectations were not only so high, she also expected it immediately. And it was all because she was trying to fill that hole. And what was disappointing for me is, as someone who wants to see someone at the very least have a transformation, it's like she just got nothing from it but another opportunity to push the situation away. Like, you could tell that's what she'd been doing all along. Right?
That's disheartening.
So, those kind of cases, I think, are the worst.
Well, then you take it personal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the sense that, I took it personal in the sense that I felt like I could have helped her in some way, and there was something I could have done.
You could have done more.
And
you
think that you could have. I mean, in hindsight, I know that she was in a place where she really had to do the work herself, and she wasn't in that place, ready for any of it. And there wasn't really going to be much I could do, But that was a hindsight thing. But it was a disappointment. Like, it was like, damn. I really wanted to help her. She got to deal with the alcoholism first.
That's the first step.
right? So whatever. Long tangent. Anyway, Ms. Jada, I'm excited about it.
I am very excited. I think it's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Listeners will not be disappointed.
Absolutely.
Let's just drop them that gem.
Right?
Will not be disappointed. Yeah.
All right, my sweet love. So yes, definitely check us out. We're matchmakers, not magicians. And so back to Ask for Candy on another note, are you ready to make a serious commitment to your transformation, honey? We were talking about the symptoms of not enough. If you are suffering from the symptoms of not feeling enough, and I'll tell you what some of those symptoms are, it's things like depression and anxiety, weight struggles, pain in the body, migraines, things that we think sometimes are injuries, like lower back problem. When I tell you that the work that I do, the reason I went into this work is because I had a chronic lower back problem. And it was throughout my life. And I did not know how it connected to what was going on with me emotionally, physically, and my story of not enough. And the work that I do, and the reason that I got certified in this work, is because it is the work that healed me. Healed my back. I lost 45 pounds because I did one for pain. I did one for weight struggles. Lost 45 pounds. Got in the shape that I wanted to get into. Like, it works. It works amazingly. And like I said, I'm here to heal the symptoms of not enoughness. And if you're ready to make a financial and emotional investment for your freedom, your physical wellness, and how you experience your love life, email me at askforcandypodcast@gmail.com and ask for my exclusive consultation link. And that's it, my people. We've done the show.
It goes by so fast.
It goes by very, very fast. We're going to be doing, We're Matchmakers, Not Magicians is going to be premiering very, very soon. And, we just go from here. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us at Ask for Candy Podcast, at Candy Love Coach. And we're going to come up with a Instagram for We're Matchmakers, Not Magicians, right?
We're working on that.
Yeah, we're going to work on
that.
To be determined. We're working out the logistics as we go. Is there any takeaways, anything you want the people to know before we sign off, Miss Jada?
No, this has been so much fun. But I did want to just touch on one thing.
Tell me.
With the Ask for Candy.
Yes.
Hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Is amazing and it works.
Oh.
Quick sidebar. I had a horrible knee ache. I don't even know. I think it was from working out. I pulled something in my knee. Miss Candace over here did a hypnotherapy session. I was terrified in the beginning.
Were you?
Well, because I was like, am I gonna wake up like barking like a dog
Yes.
or something crazy? Do you remember that?
I do.
And my
You were
knee,
very
I have
brave,
not
though.
had a single ounce of knee pain since that session.
Really?
Mm-mm.
See.
So it works.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that endorsement. I mean, the stuff It just works. Mm-hmm. It just works systematically. I consider it a tool. I'm a vessel for it. Like, it's good stuff. I'm glad.
It's very good stuff. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Of course, my love. You're like my little yogi says. You're mine. Anything you need, I got you. All right, everybody. Until next time, never forget that you are a love machine. If you ever start to feel like you aren't getting the love you need, just make more. And ask for candy.
Love it. Bye.